What is happening out there, rotoscouts basketball fans? Couple of weeks away. Big thing on my hat. There we go. Got it. Couple of weeks away, coming back exactly the same, totally unprepared as far as how we look, what the background looks like, probably how all this stuff is set up. But hopefully you guys, nothing changes around here, but hopefully you guys had good holidays. Very nice holidays for me. Had a great time hanging out with my parents. Saw my niece, my sister, her fella. It was a very nice time over Christmas, and then hung out at the house for a few days, and then got back here and honestly just wanted to take a little vacation from doing shows. So came into the new year, planned on doing stuff last week. Then with just those broken slates, those stupid couple of short ones, and then a couple days where we had 6 games on one, 8 games on the other, 8 games, 11 games, all kinds of nonsense. It's just tough getting back. Tough to want to cover those slates. They also weren't that friendly to my bankroll the last couple of weeks. I didn't like those slates. Had a much more normal day yesterday. Like yesterday was a nice clean slate, not a lot of crazy changes. I don't mind changes, but when it's like, I've said this before, when we get like one 7 o'clock game and then everything changes at 7:02 and nothing else is locked, I hate those late swap days. I like when some of the stuff I spent most of the day on, I'm able to lock into place, and then if things pivot around that, fine. It's just, some of those ones were just brutal the last couple of weeks. But we move on. We had a good night last night. Put like 6 lineups in the top 100, 5 or 6 lineups in the top 100. Didn't crack the top, I don't think 25. I think I had one in the top 25 maybe. Or maybe I finished like 30, somewhere around there. But a nice little bounce back, return to form. Did some updating in the projections yesterday. Got everything up to speed. Just trying to keep pace with, it's always a balancing act between how much old stuff is influencing the numbers, how much new stuff we let in influence the numbers. So, a little bit of a tweaked, updated set. Worked out well yesterday. Only guy I got wrong yesterday, I think, was, only guy I got wrong. The only guy I was tragically wrong on was Bobby Portis. Bobby Portis burnt me in so many lineups last night. I was figuring he would have a good one. I was worried about the blowout run, and then the Bucks ended up losing that one, surprisingly. But yeah, Bobby put up, like 11 FanDuel points into a lot of my good lineups. That would have been a pretty good night to have Bobby go off. But hey, we're back. We got a good 5-gamer today. Looks like a pretty interesting little slate. Hopefully not a lot, again, on the known unknowns right now. We're only dealing with a few different spots that we're waiting on. Got some early news, and nothing has changed over the last couple of hours. So I ran the Sims a little while ago, but everything looks like it held up. So let's just say hi to everybody. We got Matthew Patterson and Terry's alive. Yes, live and well, buddy. Hopefully at least you've been catching up on the site. I've had all the content up there last couple of weeks of football. I went deep into the articles and stuff over the last couple of weeks. Just trying to do a lot of game notes since I wasn't doing shows. And then, basketball projections and everything have been up there. But, yes, alive and well. Glad to see all you guys back. How'd everybody do over the last couple of weeks? How you guys been with holidays, New Year's? Anybody do anything crazy for New Year's? I'm not a big New Year's guy. My buddy Charlie was on me. He wanted me to come over and hang out with him and the fam and do dinner and, have a couple drinks after that with him and the wife and hang out till midnight and all of that. I'm just not a New Year's guy. I don't like the forced fun days. I've talked about this before. The days where it's like, you got to go have fun. You got to go do this. Plus, I wouldn't have been able to stay, so it would have been Ubering back from Clifton, which is like over there. Spend like, 25 minutes Ubering back for like $50 on the busiest Uber night of the year, on the drunk drivingest night of the year. It just didn't seem all that appealing. We just crashed. Hung out here. I actually literally did not see the ball drop, any of that. I crashed. I fell asleep at like, I don't know, probably around 11. Woke up at like 12:15. I was like, yeah. Texted my mom, Happy New Year's. Texted my sister, my friends. What are you going to do? Matthew Patterson. Yeah, that's it, Matt. New Year's equals amateur hour. New Year's, St. Patty's Day in New York. My old office when I worked in New York, when I worked that sales job, was right on 40th and 7th. So without fail, every St. Patty's Day for the parade by 10 o'clock in the morning. I'd come down. I was smoking at the time, so we'd come down to like take a cigarette break, right? And there was this little place like right outside our doors that had like a little, not a stand, but it was like a little step up. It was like this little perch. So we would hang out up there, and you watch the people walk by. I'm talking like, a foot off the ground, not high or anything like that. But infallibly, every St. Patty's Day that I worked there, you go out 10 a.m., somebody's passed out there. Just some kid, drunk, just dead drunk, unconscious, passed out. Amateur hour indeed. Stephen Leibowitz is here. Raptors lineup on the island game is a potential problem or challenge, says Stephen Leibowitz. We'll take a look at it. What are we waiting on there? Was there something changed in the injury report? Let me see. I'll read the latest injury report when we get there. Tiz Main's here. Tiz, what's going on, buddy? We look with the cat dragged in. Yep. Perla, yeah, I got that accounted for. I just didn't know if you meant something else had gone wonky. Pearl's out a couple of weeks. Otto is doubtful. I've got him out right now, if I remember. Usually the doubtfuls I just account for as out. And then if something changes and they happen to play, we can pop them back in. But I always think it's better to account for them as out. Let's see, what else did I do with that rotation? Now that we're diving in. Cut me off. I was in the middle of saying hi to everybody. Yep. Yeah, we're all accounted for on those two. So we'll keep an eye on it. We'll talk minutes. We'll talk about all that good stuff. Who else is here? Mamba's here. What's up, Mamba? Cujo Blue's here. Cujo was the first one in the door, as usual. Happy New Year, bud. He back. Hope everyone's having a good day. Hope everyone's having a good day. Good first couple of days of the year. I won't harp on the Happy New Year's anymore. I know Larry David has a deadline on those sorts of things. I think the 9th is within the deadline, though. I forget what Larry's deadline was. That was a few years back. Joker's like right here, by the way, hanging out with everybody. That's why I'm like just trying to scratch his ear and keep him happy. So, speaking of Toronto, top of the board, Pascal Siakam looking pretty good on both sides. Pulling a 30% win rate across both sites. Not bad. Highest overall win rate on the DraftKings slates by, 1/10 of a point less over Anthony Simons, who also looks pretty damn good. Gary Trent, if he plays. Oh, wait. Was it Trent? No, it was Otto that was doubtful. Yeah, Gary. Those guys, I get Gary and Otto mixed up in my head sometimes. Gary's playing. Gary looks awesome. 28.4% optimal on the FanDuel slate. 27.5% on the DraftKings slate. Got some Knicks popping onto the board. Josh Hart's been showing some value of late. Quentin Grimes, just cheap. Every now and then you get those, decent, it's usually a decent half out of Grimes. He'll come out, hit a couple of threes, a couple of steals, have an okay game. He's just cheap. So he's hitting the board a little bit, 16.3% for 3,900 on the FanDuel slate multi-position, 3,600 on DraftKings, 18%. Quickly on Toronto now, obviously. A lot of minutes for IQ, a lot of fantasy points per minute. Decent amount of ceiling there. I don't love the price. 4.76 points per dollar on the FanDuel slate. He's still really relevant. 27.9% optimal rate. At 7,000 on DK, that point per dollar is a lot better. 5.12, 16%. Not bad. Quickly's got a nice little ceiling there. A lot of good players, too, on this slate. Like Luka, LeBron, AD, Kyrie, all in that top, the top 20 or so here? From Luka up. This top 13. And then if you want to count IQ, you can count Randall, Sabonis, Jalen Brunson. A lot of good players to work with today. Pretty tight. Not core. I hate using the word core. But I also, as I was looking at it, it always works out this way, so it seems a little silly to point it out sometimes. But I think it's really stark today. If you look at this column on the DraftKings slate especially, and just look at the conditional formatting, right? Look at how dark green we're talking about with these top-end plays, this top 13 guys that I was talking about before, from Luka up. All those guys have incredibly good points per dollar. And they all sim out. That's sorted by DraftKings win rate across all the different positions. There's a lot of good expensive players in there, but there's a couple cheap guys in there as well, or at least semi-affordable guys, 4,400, 4,800 for Gary Trent, Josh Hart, And then a lot of like mid-range guys. You've also got Killian Hayes there at 4,500. So there's a lot to work with. It's just terrific points per dollar. A lot of these guys are really, really popular, but it's because they're coming through. There's just a lot of good chalk on DK today. And then it dips. You've got this group of guys at, not the greatest points per dollar mark, but a lot of these guys very, very cheap in the 3s, the 4s, pulling decent rates. These are just plug and play values, but it's just drawing a clear map to the DK slate today. And then these are your mid-range guys who are like, if one of these guys fails, it's probably this guy that succeeds. Right? If Desmond Bane fails at shooting guard small forward, there's a decent chance that RJ Barrett steps into that spot for 6,500 instead of the 8,500 that you spent on Desmond Bane. It's just really straight. I don't want to call it straightforward because it's never obviously going to work out just like that. But just look at that group where it's dark green through the yellows and then some light green. That's the top 30 players overall on the slate. And then there's not much to work with as you go down, just from a very straightforward points per dollar way to look at the slate. FanDuel's a little bit less like that. It's not sorted by win rate on FanDuel right now, but even if we do, you can see on FanDuel, just look at the shading, right? It's not as stark. It's not as just like, bam, 15 guys, dark green, yellow, and it's a little bit more threaded throughout. There's good points per dollar down here, even though they're not coming through like crazy. So it's just different looking slates from a points per dollar perspective. I just thought that was kind of interesting to highlight. Matthew Patterson likes a smash for Jalen Duren tonight. Travis Wyndham, what's going on, buddy? Return of the man. I should have had like a little theme coming in. I actually do have. I gotta say, I gotta get those going. I have theme songs to go with the placard, the placeholder thing that goes up on YouTube. So we got to get the intro videos fired up at some point. But yeah, buddy, what's going on? Good to see you. Good to see everybody. Good to see everybody. We've got 18 hanging out. Hit the like button. If you're not subscribed for whatever reason by now, hit the subscribe button as well. Follow the @rotoscouts Twitter handle, etc., etc. If you saw on the new place card, the new, I don't know what the hell that's called. What is the graphic thing that I put up on YouTube that holds the place before the video starts? Whatever that's called, the placard. We've got a new version of that with the Ace Mine logo on there. Talking to those guys about, forming up a little bit more of a partnership. So having some good conversations there. And hopefully going to have some promo codes for you guys, stuff like that we can, cross promote, tie into those guys a little bit. But all the sim numbers that we talk about here, acemine.io, can't recommend them enough. Guys are great. So we'll start formally maybe pointing you guys over there a little bit. But right now it's just a friendly recommendation from me to you for a very good tool. And I've been doing that all throughout. And that's what I use. And that's the data that we're seeing here. So going through that data, why don't we start going through our position by position? Otherwise, we'll be here till lock. Let's do cards. Thumbnail. Stephen Leibowitz nailed it. Thank you. I didn't mean to use the word nail in response to thumbnail, but what are you going to do? Yes, thumbnail. Thank you, buddy. You would think, being a person that works on the internet at this point, I guess I have to accept that reality. Like, I should know these things. It's weird. Right? Think about all these kids these days just work online. And it's like, no, that's what you do, Tommy. Anyway. Anthony Simons looking really good. 7,700 off the top, 81 on FanDuel. Still really holds up on FanDuel. The price, the little price jump against the higher cap doesn't really matter. 28.6% over there. 1.12 points per minute so far this season since he came back in his 14 games. He's playing great. He's the dominant guy, 29% usage rate. Not really much to highlight on him. He just looks like a really good play. That price isn't high enough yet. He should be higher priced with these rates that he's putting up. 1.19. If you look down the screen, 8,500. Desmond Bane putting up 1.20. Who else? Who else is comparable? Like nobody. Yeah, all right. Nobody at the guard spot other than him him and Des Bane in the 1.19, 1.20. But at least you can see a little bit of price difference there. Point is, he should be a little bit more expensive. He looks terrific. So I would expect to have a lot of Simons tonight on both sites. Killian Hayes is not my favorite fantasy player. I've talked about it before. I don't love the lowish points per minute guys. He's not terrible. 0.87. He's been better this year as well. 0.85 on DraftKings. And he comes up, especially on the DraftKings slate. 4,500. He's just very cheap over there. On FanDuel, you don't really probably have to sweat Killian Hayes today at 6,000. That is a big price jump even against the higher cap. You can see it in the win rate, 7.83% win rate on FanDuel versus 29.6 on DK. But just a 0.87 points per minute guy, a 16.1% usage rate. Yeah, he's the primary ball handler, so he picks up assists and he picks up points through other means than just scoring. But I like to see a little bit higher usage rates. I like to see a little bit higher points per minute. But on DK, it's just an undeniable price-based value. So I think there's definitely a spot there. Steven, that got me some words. That reminds me of the when Mr. Burns was holding auditions to be Mr. Burns' heir, and Bart goes out on the stage, and he's got a card, and it's like, I, heir, good kid M, want to love you, and Homer and it cuts to off screen, and Homer goes, ooh, he card read good. I screwed that up, but whatever. It's the quote that's important. Ooh, he card read good is the important part. Homer had written the card, I guess is the point. Anyway, Marcus Smart. So all these Memphis guys are going to have some value because Ja Morant is now out for the season. That came out late last night around 10 o'clock that it was going to be a season-long injury. Dislocated, I think, his shoulder or did something to his, I think tore his labrum in his shoulder in a practice injury, which just obviously sucks. We got 9 games out of him this year after all the stupid suspension stuff. And if you just think about it, like the last thing I think that kid needs right now is to be away from the team with a lot of time on his hands. Just doesn't seem like a good thing. But hopefully it's just, a lot of rehab and hard work and, no flashing guns on Instagram or whatever stupid shit he gets into, and he'll be back. But the point is right now, there's going to be a lot of value there. So Marcus Smart looking pretty good, picking up a 35-minute projection for 7,000 on FanDuel, 21.6% on DK, 6,300 point guard and shooting guard eligibility gives him a little bit of flex over there, 29% win rate on the DK slate. It's just good price, decent enough points per minute, 0.90, 0.91. It's another guy, not an incredibly high points per minute, but that's reasonably effective for a guy who's going to be picking up such a bump in minutes, such a bump in ball handling. He's got a 22.1% usage rate also. So that's like comparative to what I was talking about with Killian Hayes. That's a little bit of a jump in usage. Stephen Leibowitz, Marcus Smart is 12 for 27 on threes the last 2 games, 0 for 13 the previous 3. Hey, look, it's Marcus. He's a little bit streaky. And give him that, but he does a lot of things on the court too. So when he picks up this much time, just a player who's capable of creating havoc on the court to degrees. Sometimes you just get those random upside games from him too. So I do like getting the players like him, and I put him more in that category obviously than a guy like Killian Hayes. 4,900, decent price for Gary Trent, 28.4% winner on FanDuel, 4.4K on DraftKings. Point guard and shooting guard, 27.5% win rate. Not bad at all. Then we get to some star caliber players. Kyrie and Luka. Oh, I didn't go through the injuries or the Vegas data. Let me run through that real quick. So Luka's probable. Grant Williams also probable. Anthony Davis is probable. So with all the chaos that's been in that Dallas rotation lately, it does look like we're pretty stable for today. Knock on wood going into it. So I think this is what we're going to get out of Dallas. They might throw us some random wild card, but it seems like we're fairly stable and healthy. LeBron on the questionable list as usual. Anthony Davis on the probable list as usual. I expect they'll both be out there. Jabari Walker, Matty Thybulle on the questionable list, and then Jaren Jackson Jr. also questionable. If he happens not to play, that creates another gaping hole on that team that would just be, there would be just tons and tons of value created there. We've got a few big men on that squad that are very cheap. Looking at it, just where I can eyeball it all of them as a group real quick. And we get Tillman at 43, Roddy at 36, LaRavia at 3,500. Those are FanDuel prices. Everybody's going to be cheap and, potentially stepping into additional minutes there. So it's one to keep an eye on for sure. What's the actual injury? What's Triple J dealing with? Right knee contusion. Bruised his knee. Seems like the kind of thing, especially when they need him. Let's see if there's any recent reporting. Uh, 13 minutes ago, Denise Henderson. I am watching Jaren Jackson Jr., who plays for the Memphis Grizzlies. He's a great NBA player. Clap, clap, clap emojis. Not any relevant news. I was hoping for some sort of speculation, some sort of deeper information about his injury to be front and center on Twitter here, but doesn't really look like. I can search. I just want to see if there's any kind of context around that questionable. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, this is just documenting the injury report. Good job, Sports Illustrated. Way to have your AI just document what's written on the injury report. Yep, so no additional context around that. But definitely that is probably the most important one to keep an eye on. And if Triple J doesn't go, you're going to see everybody take a jump on that team. So Luka, assuming Luka plays at 12 grand, you can always pay for Luka. He's almost 10% optimal, 10% win rate on the FanDuel slate. At 11.5, 19% among the stars. That is a pretty dominant win rate for Luka on the DraftKings slate. So I think you would want to get to a pretty big Luka position over there. Point guard only. Very, very good projection. I think he's the only guy 60 plus projected. I think he's probably the only guy around that general stratosphere. Let's see, what's the next highest? Yeah, we take a 6-point dip to AD and then another 2.5 points down to LeBron and Domantas Sabonis. So Luka just off on his own in terms of just bare bones mean projection. So that's just an interesting case where he is just shining at that position like nobody else, and among all the different available high-priced players like nobody else. So you definitely want to book a good amount of Luka on DK. On FanDuel, he's more also ran as compared to some of these other guys. $9,000 Jalen Brunson at 29%, $9,200 Scotty Barnes at 11%, $9,500 Anthony Edwards, just 2%, $9,600 Darren Fox at 4.5%. So it's not nearly as stark on the FanDuel slate is the overall point. He's also a lot more expensive than all those guys on FanDuel. Oh, and Kyrie at 93 is 30% optimal on the FanDuel slate versus 23 on the DK slate. So Kyrie, I want more of on FanDuel. 9,300 still relatively cheap. I think it's come up by a few $100. 8,800 on the DraftKings slate. Not as impactful against their lower cap, but still 27.5% win rate. 23.04% win rate. 27.5 was Gary Trent. So for 88, I think you want to get to a fair amount of Kyrie. He is a priority guard, but I think Luka out prioritizes him probably. Just given the maybe I want to unwind that a little bit. I don't know that he out prioritizes him because Kyrie's 4 points ahead by win rate. I was just thinking in terms of where, given that we're going to have value, how you distribute that money. I guess Kyrie probably still makes for the somewhat better play given that price difference. What does the ownership look like? Oops. I want to see what the ownership difference between those two is. I suspect Kyrie's going to be more popular at that cheaper price. And with Luka, probable. Yeah, Kyrie projected around double the ownership. So I think that maybe levels things off between the two a little bit. You still do have a lot of salary having to be poured into Luka. But there's ways to get there, and you can see in the points per dollar, he's actually a 100th of a point ahead. But in the win rate, he's 4 points behind. Both look like good plays. Given that Luka is lower owned while maintaining this high of a win rate, I'm going to stand by what I was saying. I think I would kind of prioritize Luka. Just if you have to give him a little shove, maybe you do. And obviously, probably the highest ceiling overall on the slate. Kennard picking up plenty of value in Memphis, 4,300 right now in 22 minutes is putting him on the board, 40.7% of the time, multi-position eligible on FanDuel, 18% of the time, different play across sites, no flexibility of position on DraftKings, 4,300, the price is fine, a little bit different in the points per dollar than some of the very top options, but a decent value play on the DraftKings slate. And if we see a spike in minutes from additional absences there, maybe he doesn't necessarily pick up like direct translation of minutes, but if there's 4 minutes of scraps, he might pick up 2 of them, and I might throw 2 in a different direction. IQ, like I talked about at the top, 28% win rate on FanDuel. You have a nice little chunk here of guys that are more relevant on FanDuel than on DK. They're all relevant on DK, double-digit win rates for all of them, but you've got a few of them popping into the 20s, and then Kennard in the 40s. But IQ, Jalen Brunson, who I definitely am seeing a bunch of in my early lineup builds, early sims on the FanDuel slate. Austin Reeves, decent enough. I feel like I haven't been on Reeves on a lot of the right nights, but he's looking pretty good today on the FanDuel slate. On DraftKings, 11.6% win rate, 5.1 points per dollar for 7,400. Perfectly fine. Fine to good kind of a play. 1.01 points per minute for 7,400 is not bad. But like I said, I just feel like I've gotten him wrong a bunch of times, or just been on him when he's hit more around the mean than on his upside nights. But 24% win rate on FanDuel, can't avoid it. Multi-position eligible, 7,500. I will have a pretty decent chunk. 0.97 points per minute on the season. I don't think I had him for this one. Maybe I did. There were a couple days where I didn't play many lineups just because the tournaments were stupid and broken. This is a disaster. I don't know what happened to him in that game, but nine FanDuel points in 32.2 minutes. Not great. Miles McBride, I don't really buy this one. There's really not a lot of ceiling beyond just, the mean plus a standard deviation maybe. So you're talking about 12 fantasy points. There's not much upside for Miles McBride to get into the 20s. The minutes just aren't there. He needs to hit a bunch of threes to do it. He is only 3,000 on the DraftKings slate. That's why he's hitting the board a little bit with just an 8-point projection. But you can see it. I mean, the points per dollar is at 2.97 compared to everyone else on the board. That's not a good number, even at 3,000, even though he does sim through from time to time. That's just sheer force of this price. And then everybody else in that set of that 11% of the time, or that the 11% of the time that he impacts those lineups, everybody else in those lineups is succeeding, and he's getting to like 12. And everybody else just hits so much ceiling that it's powering through. So he can be played in that sense, but this is not saying that Miles McBride is going to go out there and get you 20 DK points today, because he's almost definitely not. Dante DiVincenzo might. He's projected above that. 5,400. Dante's been getting a lot of run with the starting lineup. Plays 26, 28 minutes, 26.4 the last time out, put up 22.5. Another guy needs to hit his threes for sure, but he's also, scrappy defender, gets his hands on the ball a decent amount of the time. But it really is all about the threes going down for a lot of these Knicks. 21.7 from Mike Conley on FanDuel versus 9 on the DraftKings slate. Another playable part on DK, but definitely more relevant on FanDuel. He's just cheap, 5,800. And for a primary ball handler who he's a low usage guy, he's not great. Like, this compares basically to Killian Hayes, right? Killian Hayes was 0.87, 16.1, and Mike Conley is 0.89, 14.4. But I get Mike Conley for 58, $200 discount from Killian Hayes. Better team, if we want to look at that. Not necessarily a direct translation from better team to better fantasy play. But he is coming through in Sims just for that $200 difference. Quite a bit more than Killian Hayes was on the FanDuel slate. On DraftKings, it's totally the other way around. Killian Hayes is 20 percentage points better. So just very, very different Mike Conley play from site to site. Looking down the rest of the board, a lot of playable guys, even through these single digits down to 5% or so. 9,000 for Anthony Edwards. You can always get to AE. 5% is enough win rate for me to throw Anthony Edwards into a few lineups. More than 5 points per dollar, giving you 1.29 points per minute on the season. 9,000 point guard and shooting guard. Anthony Edwards with multi-position eligibility don't mind that. Trey, the mythical creature that is T. McBee is back. Sounds like I'm going to have a horn sprout out of my head. I've been playing little Baldur's Gate 3 the last couple of days. And not to spoil anything, but there's a scene that I just went through yesterday where some horns sprouted out of one of my guys' heads. And I said, oh shit, wasn't expecting that. It was in the middle of a cutscene. It's a cool game. Won like all the major video game awards for the year. It's a lot like Mike Palm. What's going on, Mike? Yes, I'm alive. Welcome back to YouTube, buddy. Good to see you. Welcome back to everybody. Glad everybody showed up. 30 people here hanging out. Elvis and Nixon here hanging out. But yeah, Baldur's Gate 3, great game. It's a lot like if you played if you're a RPG fan and you haven't played it, it's a lot like Divinity Original Sin 2 that was out a few years ago. It's the same exact model, engine, all of that. They just kind of overlaid a Dungeons and Dragons theme on top of that. But great game. Trey bought an internal SSD for the PS5. Nice. I'm playing it on the computer. I haven't. What's funny is remember when the microphone was sounding all weird for a couple of weeks, and I realized that it was because I had the PlayStation controller plugged in on the USB and it was picking it up through that microphone, and we were doing the show through that. I haven't actually gone back and played Starfield at all. I just haven't plugged that controller back into the computer because I don't want to do that again and forget and do a show that way again. But yeah, Baldur's Gate is all just like mouse keyboard clicking, so it's turn based too, so you don't need to have quick hands-on controls or anything. Have to finish Assassin's Creed Valhalla. I've played like one or two of the Assassin's Creed games, never all the way through. It's just one of the franchises for whatever reason didn't not that I didn't connect with it. It was a fun game, but like just never really got deep into. The one that filled that exact same or scratched that exact same itch for me was the Uncharted games, jumping, climbing, so on and so forth. And I know Assassin's Creed's got stealth and combat and all that, and so does Uncharted. Very similar kind of itch, and that was just the direction I went with. More my speed. I've not, Trey. I've talked about it before. I'm god awful at first person shooters. I'm okay at like the Bethesda style, like Starfield. That's a lot of it is first person shooter. For some reason, I can do that. I guess it's probably because I'm competing against NPCs, not 12-year-olds who are on it 24 hours a day who just murder me. But that's my experience anytime I play Call of Duty. I'll play the story modes on Call of Duty, and that's kind of the same thing, right? I can get through those playing against the NPCs even on a decently hard level. But as soon as I'm released into the wild against on the player versus player campaigns, I just get absolutely waxed. Get murked by the 12-year-olds. Yeah, and then they're yelling all kinds of slurs at you over the thing. And like, I don't do the headphones or anything like that, so it's just coming out of my TV, and it's just like, whoa, all right, don't need that. The one that I downloaded again the other day that I hadn't played in a while was GTA 5. It's on the the PlayStation subscription network games thing, whatever that's called. So I was playing a little bit of that the other day. I haven't played much GTA Online. I was watching, I stumbled down a YouTube rabbit hole one night. I got to get back to the show in a second, but just the role playing on GTA 5. Like, are you guys aware that there are people who literally spend their time being garbage men in the world of Grand Theft Auto? Like, they'll go online and spend like 12 hours just going around the city picking up trash. I get that role playing's fun. I can see like, all right, I'm going to go and be a cop in that world, which a lot of people do. I can see the fun in that. I can certainly see the fun in I'm going to go be a criminal. Certainly, I'm sure there's other things that you would be, but to just be like, I'm going to routinely just drive a garbage truck down the street, stop at every house, pick up the trash, throw it in the truck, get back in, drive to the next house, wait to get hijacked by somebody who's having a lot more fun than I am. I just don't get it. Yeah, Trey, go. I mean, after the show's over, Search GTA role playing. It's wild. Yeah, they take it really seriously. And there's, I guess, Discord servers where they're all, talking to each other and they can call each other through Discord and everything. It's pretty wild. Anyway, let's move on to the forwards before we completely get derailed here and run into lock. It is 450. Some of the forwards. So Pascal Siakam again, plenty of opportunity there. 30% win rate on FanDuel, 30% win rate on the DraftKings slate. Just picks up a little bit of additional rates across the board in this situation. So plenty of minutes, plenty of upside. Price is too cheap at 80, 200, 8,000. I'll have plenty. It's one of the spots where I'm just not going to worry about the popularity. But when I checked his popularity, because I just saw him pop up to the top like this, I said, let me see, if he's crazy popular on both sites. It didn't look like he really was. Let me see where he is on DraftKings. On FanDuel, he was moderately popular. DraftKings, he's a lot more popular in this current projection. All right. I think that makes some sense. But I'm kind of psyched that he's not crazy popular on FanDuel. He's basically double the popularity on the DraftKings slate. It's kind of around this kind of a number. Where on FanDuel, if I said he's double at around this kind of a number, you guys can figure that out on your own. Josh Hart looking pretty good from the Knicks, 5,400. Another guy getting a good amount of run there. Yet another guy, though, who needs to, I don't want to call him scoring dependent because he has his nights where he only scores a few points, but he grabs a ton of rebounds. He picks up a few steals. He does a lot of good things. He's that kind of a guy, but it definitely helps when Josh Hart is scoring the ball a little bit. You can get a lot of these kind of nights out of Josh Hart where it's 32 minutes, 13 fantasy points. He's at 11% usage rate. So you need Josh Hart to go out and grab you 8 to 10 rebounds, 7 to 9 rebounds, somewhere in that territory. Right now he's grabbing 6.5 a game, but you can see he's 7.5 points, 2 assists. I don't have the steals here. We'd like them to be making more threes than this. He's taking 2.5 a game, making less than 1, 2.8, making less than 1, 34%. Needs to beef that up a little bit. If he does, or on the nights that he does, he's a much better fantasy asset. 5,400 slots in at shooting guard and small forward on FanDuel. On DraftKings, 4,800 small forward, power forward, 23.6% win rate. I do think he's very, very playable. It's just he comes with a little bit of an asterisk around those clunker games that he can tend to point up. And you can put up. And you can see it in the 0.74 points per minute on FanDuel, 0.76 on DraftKings. Desmond Bane, kind of another piece of obvious play from that Memphis rotation. 28.5% win rate on FanDuel, 22.8% on DraftKings, 8,500 over on both sites. Shooting guard, small forward on both sites. A lot of flexibility, very high end opportunity. 39.5 fantasy points on FanDuel the other night in 36.5 minutes. Plays 35, 36 a night, and just going to have the opportunity to have the ball in his hands a ton in this situation. So I really like Desmond Bane here. 1.16 FanDuel points per minute, 1.20 DraftKings points per minute under normal circumstances for the season. So just kind of reverting back to what he was at the beginning of the season with Ja out. Anthony Davis, LeBron James, just right next to each other here. Same play basically on the DraftKings slate. Power forward center for one of them, small forward, power forward for the other. They're separated by $300. There's not a ton to talk about. It's Anthony Davis and LeBron James. If one doesn't play, the other takes a little bit of a jump forward, as do some of the other Lakers. We'll see how that works out. I expect both of them to be out there. It is pretty different on the FanDuel slate though. LeBron at 10,000 looks like a much, much better option. 28.7% winner. AD is very playable. Power forward and center. I can get shares of both of them at both positions. But just a 9% win rate. That's pretty different than he looks across town. 5.01 points per dollar is still good, but other guys are outpacing him at those positions. So LeBron looks like the better of the Lakers options, assuming they're both out there. Bojan picking up a decent amount of opportunity tonight. 6,800 small forward, power forward, 6,700 small forward only on the DraftKings slate. 20% winner over there. 28.6% winner on FanDuel. And that's Killian Hayes, Bojan, a couple of the other Detroit guys picking up just additional value. No Cade for, I believe, 2 weeks? I think he's going to be out for. Pretty sure I saw that. Left knee strain is what they're calling it. So, yeah, couple of weeks should be some decent opportunity. Price 68 for Bojan. That's about right, I guess, for this opportunity for that player. It's not like low. It's just kind of the right price, that he's hitting enough value where he's really, really relevant and looks like a really good play. But it's not like these are stratospheric points per dollar. 4.82 on FanDuel, 5.16 on DraftKings. There's a lot of similar plays. He just looks like a good opportunity and does have upside for additional scoring beyond what he would normally give you. Quentin Grimes, like I said, got to knock down some threes. 3.08 FanDuel points per minute. Him, Miles McBride, all those down bench Knicks. There's not, on most nights, outside of just the sheer power of the points per dollar, or the low price being able to structure other high points per dollar guys around them. Other than that value, there's not a lot of direct high ceiling, high opportunity for fantasy scoring. 14.8 minutes the other night, Quentin Grimes put up 10.7 FanDuel points. 2 or 3 games ago, he came out, he hit 4.5. He was on his way to a decent score, and Tibb didn't really play him very much at all in the second half. These kind of things happen to those down bench Knicks. Sire Williams at 45.01% win rate on FanDuel, not showing much at all, even with 22 minutes, 16-point projection, just not a lot there for 45. At 36 on DraftKings, he's pulling a 16% win rate. That's just a really differentiated price, differentiated play. He's got multiple position eligibility over there, small forward, power forward. So pretty interesting option on the DraftKings slate. If he picks up a few additional, if he spiked to 26-ish, maybe he picks up a little bit of ground here. He's a 0.8 player. That puts him right around a 20. Maybe he shows a little value. Small forward only, though. If he was small forward, power forward, I think he'd get a little bit more love on FanDuel. Right now, not looking like that relevant of a play. Chris Boucher, 15% win rate. He's cheap, 4,800. We know there's going to be minutes there. Center and power forward. 4,500 power forward center on DraftKings, 16% winner. Looks like a reasonable enough plug and play value with a little bit of upside. In 16 minutes the other night, he put up 35 FanDuel points. So there is that kind of opportunity. In general, he's a 1.0 FanDuel points per minute, a 16% usage guy. But occasionally you do get those nice spikes of upside. If he goes beyond the 18 minutes that we've got him projected for, with a little bit of opportunity there, so much the better. But I think there's a little bit of salary-based upside for him. Julius Randle just looks good. 9,100 is 9.6% optimal on FanDuel, 14.9, call it 15% on DraftKings. 8,900 over there, still a good price for Julius. Totally turned his season around after some struggles early on and has just been very, very good. 1.23 DraftKings points per minute on FanDuel, 1.17 on other way around. 1.23 on DraftKings, 1.17 on FanDuel. Definitely more relevant today on the DraftKings slate by about 5 percentage points, but very, very playable on both sides. The multi-position on DraftKings helps. I'd like to have that on FanDuel as well, but power forward only. We get 2 cracks at it, so that's perfectly fine. I expect to see a fair amount of Julius. Very good upside, 55.9 FanDuel points in 37.7 minutes. You don't see Julius get to the 65, 70 point output all that often or at all. But he does have a fair amount of games in this range, up beyond a standard deviation, beyond his typical mean projection. It's those multi-standard deviation games that you don't really see too much out of Julius. RJ, this was a nice one for RJ. 56.2 FanDuel points in 36.2 minutes. That's not bad. 0.96 on the season on FanDuel. 1.0 on DraftKings. He's an 11.9% winner on DraftKings, 8.9%. There's a little bit of upside there. He's only 6,600 on the FanDuel slate, 65 on DraftKings. I'm actually surprised maybe, again, the multi-position holding him down a little bit on FanDuel. I'm surprised that for basically the same price across sites that he's not a little bit more optimal actually on FanDuel than DK. But it's probably that multi-position. Scotty Barnes, another guy, just a lot of bodies in Toronto and a lot of guys that are looking good. 11% winner on basically both sites. 9,200 on FanDuel, 87 on DraftKings. Point guard, small forward. I like the eligibility positionally. Better on DraftKings than the power forward, small forward on FanDuel. But I'll take him in both spots. Paolo Banchero's just been absolutely crushing of late. 63 FanDuel points. It was 44.9 minutes in an overtime game the other day. I think that was an overtime game, pretty sure. But just tons of run, Tons of upsides. Been playing out of his mind lately. 28.9% usage rate, 1.16 FanDuel points per minute, 1.20 DraftKings points per minute. Let me get what's his output been over the last 30 days? Let's call it since, not even 30 days. What's output been since Christmas? Since Christmas, December 25th, 314 minutes, 1.31 FanDuel points per minute, 1.35 DraftKings points per minute for Paolo. So drop another, 0.15 on top of that, 0.2 on top of that. He's just been crushing it. Like him maybe even a little bit better than this. I got to, let me see what rate I have him at right now. I tell you what, he could stand to take a little bit of a nudge. I'm going to do that. That's probably about right. Actually, let me cut that by half a point. You'll see him a little bit higher in the next update. Tiny little nudge to correct the rate to what it's been over the last couple of weeks. Not exactly. I'm not going all the way up to 1.31. But I've got him a little bit higher than what I had him. I had him a little bit more around what he's done for the full year before that. So, yeah, I think I whoops, that was not the right. I just accidentally deleted Anthony Edwards' projection. Put that back. So, yeah, I had him right at his current season number when I think the more correct number right now is probably where he's been. So we'll go with that. We'll get that updated after the show. What else do we have on the board? Jimo Kiki, 23.7% winner on FanDuel. Dante DiVincenzo, I touched on him on the guards position, but again, looks really, really good. Jaden McDaniels, 20% winner on FanDuel. All three of those guys, a little bit different, basically double the win rates on the FanDuel slate as compared to DraftKings. Playable on DraftKings, all hovering around 10% win rates for fair to middling type prices. A lot of shooting guard, small forward eligibility across those guys. So any one of them looks like a reasonable enough play. Vince Williams looks a little bit better on DraftKings, 10.2% winner over there, 14.6% in top 1% lineups, 0.79%. 0.79 DraftKings points per minute on the season for 4,300. On FanDuel, 0.79 FanDuel points per minute. But for 5,200, not really hitting the board. Priced him up. 18.97 gives him 3.65 FanDuel points per dollar. Just not really hitting nearly as hard. He did give us 37. He was basically a point per minute player the other night, 37 and 37 minutes. Looks better when he's in the starting lineup. We've got him getting those kind of minutes again tonight. So could he pay off a 5,200? Yeah, but it's probably going to be like this 37 just barely. Like, that's not necessarily enough. That's not a tournament winning score. You don't look at 37 points for 5,200 and say, damn, if you had him, you won the tournament. It's a good enough play. Like, that could be in a winning lineup. It wouldn't hamper a winning lineup, but it wouldn't create a winning lineup, if you get me. Triple J looks very, very good on the FanDuel slate, assuming he's out there. 8,300 power forward and center. On DraftKings, 7,700, same positioning, 9% win rate. Very, very playable over there. Kevin Huerter. Kevin Huerter was rumored, we'll keep an eye on it going into lock. It was rumored that he was going to get the start tonight. Give him a few additional minutes to account for it. Not really, I'm not putting him like 30 plus, but 26 minutes right now. Looks like a playable part on both sites. A little bit better on DraftKings, 9.09% win rate for 4,400. Shooting guard and small forward eligible, 46 on FanDuel, just a 5% win rate. But with the idea that he's going to see a few more minutes, probably at the expense of Chris Duarte was the reporting. But again, that was just because he was practicing with the first team jersey on or whatever this morning. So we'll keep an eye on what they actually announce. Derek Jones looking like a different play across sites. 5,400, both forward spots, 30-minute projection, 21.7% winner on FanDuel. A little bit above a point per minute in the last timeout, 0.83 on the season. Definitely coming through for a reasonable point per dollar value, though, 4.35. Not terrible. On DraftKings, not as relevant, 6.5%. Just playable over there. Kyle Anderson, Naz Reid, Keegan Murray, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, all relatively playable in the 5% win rate range. Any one of those guys is if you've got him 3 or 4 times up to like 5% of your lineups across 150, that just means they're swapping in and out of spots that are being interchanged around all the key values, around all the key chalky stars, right? Those are the guys that slot in, and if they happen to get there that night, that's what potentially creates a winner. On FanDuel, though, Harrison Barnes is a little bit more relevant. Keegan Murray's a little bit more relevant. Derek Jones, who I mentioned before, definitely more relevant. Kyle Anderson, Naz Reid, Kyle Reid, or Naz Anderson, either way, all 4 of them. Not nearly as relevant on the FanDuel slate. About a third, about half actually for Naz, but sub 3%, not really that relevant. Every now and then you get the big Naz games. He is about a point per minute player, 1.0 on the nose actually for the season. But for 5,700 for a guy who's not stepping into any kind of reliable minutes or anything like that, he's just playing those, his typical run. So there's not any apparent upside there. Harrison Barnes, I don't love 15.6%. I really like these numbers, the rates that he's coming through at. I don't love the sub 4 points per dollar. I don't love the 13.4% usage rate. I don't love the 0.63 points per minute. I don't love the 14.2 that he put up in 22 minutes the other night. But he is just on a price basis, kind of hitting the board a little bit. Can go out there every now and again and put up a decent enough score. Timmy Hardaway, same thing. I've mentioned it before. I feel like I never succeed with Timmy. I got a lot of these nights out of Timmy. 31.6 minutes, 18 fantasy points. That's what he does when he's in my lineups. I know there are nights when he succeeds and helps people win tournaments. It's just not when he's here for me. I'll go to Timmy a lot when one of, or more preferably both of, Luka and Kyrie aren't playing. On a night like tonight, he's just kind of a piece. He's an also-ran. If I have him 5% of the time, I'm fine with that at a 7.45% win rate. Even a little bit more. If I've got him at 10%, maybe it's okay. But that's about my limit. I don't need him all that much more than the field. On DraftKings, a lot less relevant, sub 5% winner. OG looking pretty good in the Knicks rotation as well. 19.4% winner on FanDuel. A lot less relevant. 6,300 both forward spots on DraftKings, sub 3%, but on FanDuel pushing nearly 20%. 6,200. Pretty solid projection. 4.6 points per dollar. The other night, he's another guy, the threes need to go down. He's in not incredibly high usage, a little bit below average, 17.2%. It's not crazy low. It's not 10, 13% usage. He does get his looks. He is a integral part of the offense, knocking down corner threes, hopefully. But he's got to knock those down. He does create a bunch of havoc. He gets his hands on the ball like crazy. He led the league in steals last year, so he racks up additional fantasy points on the right night. And for 6,200, it's a good buy at the forward and guard spot. But he can give you these clunkers. He's another guy that comes with a bit of an asterisk. Basically, everybody on the Knicks that's not named Jalen Brunson and Julius Randle, and maybe these days Isaiah Hartenstein, who's like the third best center in the league since he took over the starting job. Outside of those guys, everybody basically comes with that little warning label when it comes to the Knicks. Nobody else crazy relevant. Mo Wagner maybe picks up a little bit, but still sub 3% win rate. Nothing great there. 3% winner for Josh Green in 28 minutes. Nothing to write home about there. Let's jump to the center spot, and then we'll look at the Sims. Only 5 games, so there's only so much to talk about. See what you guys are talking about. Nothing. You guys are keeping quiet in the chat today. 25 people here. We had a few more than that. Some people probably come back later on. Wanted to skip the video chat. The video game chat, rather. First day back. Not bad. Happy everybody showed up. Let's put it that way. Not that I was worried about it. But you never know. You fire these things up, and if nobody shows up, you're just here talking to yourself about basketball. Alan Mark is just listening. Appreciate the info. Hey, I appreciate you, buddy. Thanks for chiming in. Trey's still here. Yeah, no, I get a little readout on, there's a little eyeball in the corner. It's probably like behind. There have been days where like it said 0 and there were a couple people in here talking to me. So I was like, I'm pretty sure there were people here. And like in the first minute of the show. So I think it's a little bit behind. But yeah, I know you guys are out there. But as I was saying, I appreciate you guys being out there. As I've said many times, this isn't a very good show if it's just me talking to myself. Isaiah Hartenstein. I was just talking about him. 10.7% winner on DraftKings, still 6,400 over there, reasonably affordable. You can see the bump on FanDuel, 78. Not really all that relevant to the FanDuel slate. Can give you crazy upside though. 39 minutes, 46.8 FanDuel points is pretty good. 0.99 FanDuel points per minute on the season. Let's go to... There's several tweets out there that, talking about all the different categories where he's top 5 since taking over the starting role. But in the categories we care about, since Christmas, Hartenstein 1.01 FanDuel points. So basically right on the nose of where he is. If we take it back to December 1st and let it load. Yeah, 1.02 across since December 1st. Just tons and tons of opportunity for a guy who, when he was in the backup role and there were the days where he would pick up minutes, he is a better player than people think. He's a very, very good rebounder. He's an excellent offensive rebounder. He's a very good passer for a big man. He does a lot of stuff on the basketball court. So I never mind getting Hartenstein. It just doesn't look like he maths out really well on the FanDuel slate today, unfortunately. 7,800 is a big price tag for him. So at 4.5 points per dollar, with everybody at power forward and center, he's not really comparing all that favorably on FanDuel, but definitely still, outside of the top 2 options here, which are Siakam and Davis, who we've already talked about, everybody else on DK is not all that far out ahead of Hartenstein. He's at 9.09. A lot of guys in the 10 to 15 range here, 16 even, and then a couple guys double that. But nothing crazy. No reason you can't get there with him. But I do like Randall better. I do like Sabonis better. Jalen Duren, somebody brought him up at the top of the show. 18.5% winner on the FanDuel slate, 19% winner on DraftKings. Certainly looks like a good option today. 32 minutes, pushing a 40-point projection, 1.11 per minute on DraftKings, 1.11 per minute on FanDuel. Played 30 the other day, put up 31. That's about 1.11, a little bit less. 21 games, 30 minutes a night, 16.3% usage rate. Giving us 10 plus boards, 11 plus boards a night, 13.5 points. 18.1% rebounding rate, a 12% assist rate. What's it? 2.5 assists per game. I actually hadn't had that clocked, that he was even averaging 2.5 assists per game. That's not bad. 12% assist rate for a young center. That's not bad at all. So yes, whoever brought that up at the top of the show, very good call. Jalen Duren looks like an excellent option on both sides. $7,400 center on FanDuel, 18.5%. That is I believe at third highest win rate. 29.4 for Siakam, who actually is only a power forward on FanDuel. So scratch this one on FanDuel, right, when we're talking about the center spot. So he's Sabonis at 23, and then Jalen Duren on the other side of the same game are the top 2 center-eligible players. You could play them side by side. I don't really have any issue with that, saying, all right, Sabonis drops in at center, and then I get Jalen Duren, or at power forward, and then I get Jalen Duren at the center spot. No issues there. 2 very high-end big men. On DraftKings for 10K, Sabonis falls more into the middle, 14% win rate, but 5.34 points per dollar at the high price is excellent. 1.38 points per minute on the season on DraftKings. Just a very, very good option going up against that Detroit team. Trey Lyles confirmed to be playing. They confirmed that one early in the day. 11.7% winner on DraftKings. Power forward and center eligible, 3,900. Doesn't really hit the board at all. 0.37% winner on FanDuel. 0.82 points per minute, a low usage guy at 13.8%. But it's really just more about the single position and the slightly higher salary, even against the higher cap. Just not really working out for a guy with an 18-minute projection. Not a crazy high ceiling either for that, for those minutes. So I'm fine with where he's falling. Jonte Porter with 10% at 3,700 on FanDuel, 3,100, 11% on the DraftKings slate. I have to fully confess, I don't know a lot just out of the gate about Jonte Porter. It's just stepping into some backup center minutes for 3,700, but you can see it's a 12-minute projection, a 3.14 point per dollar. So this comes with a big asterisk about what the actual ceiling on this play looks like. It's just another one of those where this 3,100, just buy that square for 3,100, and whatever you get, 8, 11, 10, it's enough on the nights where everybody around him pays off. So that's all you're buying there. There's not a lot of upside. If he happened to step into starting minutes for whatever reason, then we'd be singing a different tune. If if we change that to 24 minutes, nothing would happen here because this isn't the model. This is just a dashboard. Nothing would happen at all. But if I change that to 24 minutes on the model, this would spike, that would spike. And then if I resimmed it, these would go way, way up, even for, a 15% usage guy. In his 3 games, 10.8 minutes a game, he's been 0.96 fantasy points per minute, FanDuel points per minute. But we're not expecting anything remotely approaching what I've said over the last 30 seconds. So don't get too excited about Jonte Porter. Precious, kind of a similar option. Not really showing value. Like, this is probably more who Jonte Porter actually is. Right? But even Precious at 35, showing an almost 9% win rate on the DraftKings slate, just again shows how important those super cheap, no matter what they do, just buy the square for cheap plays can be on DraftKings. Obviously, I shouldn't say it doesn't matter what they do, because you do need some points out of them. But the most critical part about those plays is just their salary. Bismack Biyombo showing a pretty decent win rate on the FanDuel slate, pushing almost 14%, 5.05 points per dollar. He's a 0.78 points per minute player on the season. In 26 minutes the other night, he put up 18.2. In 29 games, he's playing 24 minutes a night. Pretty decent role he's carved out there. So just a cheap plug-and-play center option on the FanDuel slate. He's 9%, 8.5% winner on DraftKings at 4,200. I think he's playable over there. A lot lower priority, though. But on FanDuel, especially among the center-only types, he's one of the critical guys. Well, that didn't work because center is also in those, dummy. Well, it does. All right, let's do that. We'll narrow it down to just FanDuel center eligibles. All right, so Biyombo right in the mix with those guys, and then Sabonis out a little bit ahead of everybody else. But again, you can get Sabonis at the power forward. You can get Jaren Jackson, Dwight Powell, Chris Boucher all at the power forward. So among the center-only guys, it's really Jalen Duren, Biyombo, James Wiseman in just 16 minutes. That's another just purely price-driven one. I gotta say, I don't love the center spot on FanDuel today if we're talking about just the center-only guys. I'm fine with getting Biyombo. I don't love Boucher, Wiseman. Oh, Boucher's power forward eligible too. I don't love Wiseman. I don't love Jonte Porter here. I do like Goga hiding down here. Just a 5% win rate. The price is up a little bit, I want to say. But Goga's got good ceiling. 1.13 FanDuel points and a proven 1.13. This is over 32 games, 21 minutes a night. Last year he was... Oh, come on. Last year he was 1.11 per minute, so actually was even better last year. Oh, excuse me. It's 1.13 this year. Oh, I was looking at the wrong number. 1.11 last year, 1.13 this year. So right around what he's been, the number I was looking at. And I've actually got him decently below that tonight in a game that's just basically around the pace that they typically play. But going up against that really good defensive front court, I've actually got him lowered. I've got him at 1.01 is what you guys are seeing there. And he still looks really good. Or he still looks decently playable enough on that FanDuel center slate at 5% win rate. I can't say he looks really, really good. At 57 on DraftKings, 0.06. He's not relevant at all on DraftKings slate. It just goes to show how the center position is very different across sites. Let's go back to DraftKings. A couple other guys on here, I think. Boucher we touched on. Goga, Hartenstein we talked about. Maybe not. Precious we talked about. Just not a lot of minutes there for Precious. Just essentially, they waived Taj Gibson before they had to pay him the other day. So Precious is locked into, essentially 12, call it 12 to 16 backup center minutes a night, basically. There's not a ton for him to do right now. But he does have a little bit of upside, and certainly price-based upside. Dwight Powell looking pretty decent on the FanDuel slate at 16.8%. On DraftKings, just a little under 5%. Center only on DK, 4,600 probably has a lot to do with that. Center and power forward on FanDuel gives him a little bit more value, a little bit more flexibility. In 28 minutes the other night, 25.2 FanDuel points, 0.88 per minute, 9.6% usage rate. Lowest usage regular on the board, I think, for the entire slate at any position. I would have to expect. Yeah. He's got a usage rate comparable with Jared Vanderbilt, who gets reasonable minutes, but, certainly fewer. Or projected for fewer tonight, actually, I should say. 17.8 in his 16 games compared to 15.2 so far on the season per game for Dwight Powell. But yeah, very, very low usage rate among regulars. So I don't love the Dwight Powell option. That was really, I think, like the last semi-relevant guy. Anybody we didn't touch on that's like popping up? This is everybody again. I think we talked about most of these relevant guys. Yeah, Alan, I have no issue with that. Alan Marga wanted to play Towns. Feel good about it. Would you say just jam high-owned plays in a small field after Towns? Yeah, I have no issue if you just want to track ownership. Ownership for basketball is very, very efficient. So you can use that as, at worst, like a guide rail, a tiebreaker, whatever you want to call it. I've got 2 spots left. Who do I go to? I've already worked in a fairly low-owned pivot that has decent, high upside, points per minute upside. Where do I go? You can check the ownership and just plug in a chalky guy. Dupes aren't really a thing to worry about with basketball. It becomes more relevant the smaller that the slate gets, obviously. If you're talking about a 2-gamer, it's a little bit more relevant. But with even just 5 games, there are so many combinations that we're really not worried about it. It's more a leverage game. It's more a differentiation game than anything else. So, yeah, I think that's the correct way to approach that, Alan. And obviously, it's if you spot something where it's like, oh, that guy's a lot higher owned than what his win rate is. He's 30% owned against a 5% win rate. Those aren't necessarily right. Something's up there. Obviously, the field is off on some kind of goose chase compared to where we would have it, or where whatever your site of choice is if you're looking at stochastic numbers or whatever. So be wary of that. If you see somebody who's a lot more highly owned than what his optimal lineup rate is, his win rate, whatever you want to call it, those are the plays to maybe back off of. In a full slate, if you're building out 150, those guys still go into your lineups. You don't care as much. But those are the guys where you can say, all right, I want to be under the field as compared to with the field, over the field. The with the fields, over the fields are the guys who the ownership and the win rate are even. One is a little bit ahead of the other, or the win rate is well out ahead of the ownership. Those are the guys to get over the top on. Trey loves Hartenstein on DK. Yeah, that's where I would want him if I'm playing him. I think I was talking about Luka at the top of the show, Trey. I'm not sure if you were here for that. I think Luka is a play on DK. I do. As expensive as he is, and we can touch on it again, he's right here. You don't often see Luka with almost a 20% win rate, good as he is. 5.36 points per dollar. He's the bottom of that crazy run of excellent points per dollar numbers here. Well, actually, no, that's not actually accurate because it's not sorted by that. He's here if we're talking about just bare points per dollar, which is not the right way to describe that. I was just talking about that overall group. But he's basically 5 raw points projected of 6, actually. 55 is the next highest overall projection. You're paying a lot more for it. And it's different positions, obviously, so it hits the board differently. But they've got similar win rates, him and AD. And I think just getting Luka, booking him into that point guard spot, I think has a little bit more value than AD does, just compared to the rest of the slate. Maybe not, though. I mean, you do have a fair amount of guards up at the top of the board here. You've got Siakam at the power forward and center spot, soaking up a lot of where AD could slot into. There are more guards there. There's a couple of centers going down the board here. It's close between who's positionally more valuable. But I think overall, ceiling wise, mean projection being 6 points higher than anybody else on the slate. He's got to get you more than this, obviously, for 11.5. But he just looks really tough to pass up today. I like that spot. On FanDuel, it's very different. He's just playable on FanDuel. On DK, I think he looks pretty good. Beatdown says, warning, I'm playing Marcus Smart tonight, so everyone else avoid him. It's going to be a 10 fantasy point Marcus Smart night. I'll double down on that. I'm going to have plenty of Marcus Smart. And like I was saying, he's another one of those guys, just like Killian Hayes above him there. You can see Killian Hayes last time out, 25 minutes, 15 FanDuel points. That's the kind of nights I get out of Killian Hayes. Timmy Hardaway and Marcus Smart is on that list. So yeah, I'm with Beantown, but I'm going to have him too. So me and Beantown go down with the ship. Everybody else can bail out and jump off that play if you want to. But he does look very good. Everybody on Memphis looks very good today. Let's jump into these sims. Take a look at some of these results. We're coming up on 5:30. I do want to have time to update and do my thing with my lineup builds. But we'll take a peek here at some of the AceMind results. AceMind.io for all your sim needs. They've got an optimizer. By the way, they've got, for PGA fans, they've got a PGA sim engine up. I think they've got a PGA optimizer too, I would have to imagine. Yep. PGA optimizer, PGA sim engine. And of course, what we're here to talk about. And they're going to have baseball. I confirmed with them yesterday. Going to have a baseball optimizer up. Believe that they're working on a couple of other sports. MMA, I heard whispered. Not sure if I'm supposed to be telling you guys any of this. But whatever. I'll put those guys on the clock now. But yeah, it's just, a lot of work being done over here to enhance and add to the product that is already a pretty damn good product that we've been using. Top lineups. Jordan McLaughlin. Where the hell did he come from? I don't remember talking about Jordan McLaughlin at all. Jordan McLaughlin on DraftKings. 3,700 point guard only. Just a 4.56% win rate. That's just an oddball. Those top three lineups. And another one here. And a couple more down here. That's weird. All right, so if we're looking at the board, remember what I was saying about Luka versus AD? We're not getting any Luka in the point guard spot in these very, very top lineups at all, but we are getting a couple of them over here in the util. So we don't want to ignore that, but we're getting an AD here. What other AD shares? We've got a couple of ADs here. A couple more ADs in the middle. So I think AD is actually, in terms of those top two mean projection, top two star caliber players at different positions, obviously. I think I'll retract and say that maybe based on what we're seeing in the top lineups, even with similar overall win rates, seeing a little bit more AD at the very, very top. You could rerun this and maybe get, slightly different results. But I think at the very, very top, maybe AD is a little bit more there. You also have in that fifth lineup down here, you've got an AD with Kyrie. So you're still picking up a big chunk of that. You've also got Timmy in that one. So where you don't get AD, you can go to those two. Or where you don't get Luka, you can go to those two for basically, that's probably about the same combined salary for those two as you would pay for Luka. Des Bane also in that one. Dante DiVincenzo in that one. Chris Boucher, Anthony Davis, Jordan McLaughlin. That McLaughlin result is weird, though. I guess it's just the very low price at the point guard spot. But not one I was expecting given the 4% win rate. It's one of those oddball plays where he's only hitting it 4.5% of the time. But when he's hitting it hard. He's getting to the top of the board. One to keep in mind for, not to get carried away with, but as a, spot to rotate in there. Mom is declaring AD the best player of the year. God damn. It says, have you ever seen the guy on YouTube with the girlfriend who has one of the strongest Boston accents? I'd like to hear her say smart. Smoking Virginia Slims and saying smart. You think you're better than me? You think you're so smart? You parked your car the other day. You couldn't even find it. Big Virginia Slim hanging out of her mouth. Or is it Virginia? No, it's Salem. Salem, the menthols. That's what I always think of when I think of those, like the, not the Departed. What's the Ben Affleck flick where they rob Fenway Park? Just the Boston ladies in that one, or Gone Baby Gone. Just those Boston character actors. It's just those menthol Salem lights, for whatever reason, is something that I associate with those women. I don't know what YouTube video you're talking about, but I know the exact kind of the town. Thank you, Tez. Can't believe I couldn't conjure that. Great movie. Jeremy Renner's fantastic in that movie. So is Affleck. I don't know that video, though, that you're talking about, but I certainly know the exact person. I can hear her in my head, even never having heard her. So Kyrie's hitting the board a decent amount of the time. Chuma Okeke's getting in there a little bit. Josh Hart getting in there a little bit. Dante DiVincenzo a little bit. A lot of mix of different Knicks in there. Some Julius Randle. Some Jalen Brunson. Couple with Jalen and Julius in them. I don't know that it's a situation where I want to load up on Knicks, especially with what I was saying about, a lot of fairly low points per minute guys who are somewhat dependent on, you got to make your threes, you got to come up with a couple of steals. So I don't know that you necessarily want like 3 Knicks. I would probably look to have 2, and it looks like that's coming through in most of these, maximum of 2. I don't know that I'd set that necessarily in lineup builds, but that's kind of what I'd be looking for, I think, if I was hand building 1 or hand building 3. So let's see. It looks like we're mostly spendy. There's a couple value guys in here, the Precious Share, the Trey Lyles. But for the most part, Randall, Pascal Siakam, OG is fairly priced. Paulo Banchero obviously is spendy. So a little bit of spend at power forward. Mid-range, a lot of mid-type guys. Bojan, Dante DiVincenzo, Josh Hart, Azure Thompson. A lot of, not extreme values, but trending more toward value at the small forward than pay up. Guard looks like a position where you're taking anything you want at the shooting guard. Good mix of cheaper guys and high-end guys like Anthony Simons, Des Bane, Kyrie Irving, Marcus Smart, who is more in the middle. But you're also seeing some Miles McBride, some Naw, some Quentin Grimes, some Gary Trent from the middle. Point guard's interesting. Point guard with those Jordan McLaughlin shares, that throws that off. Killian Hayes is also cheap at the point guard spot. You do get a few drips and drabs of Jalen Brunson, but it looks like we're mostly saving at point guard. A lot of those guys do, however, land over at the util spot. Right, like a McLaughlin goes here and a Luka goes here. So you do still get a fair amount of those plays. So util looks very spendy. Just happenstance for how these lineups are falling, outside of obviously the couple of Jonte Porters in here, a couple of James Wisemans. But for the most part, we're spending money at util. Forward is, if you're not getting AD and Siakam over here, you're getting him in the forward spot decent amount of the time. And then it looks like guard is mostly distributed to whatever of the mids you're not getting over here, right? You're getting some Miles McBride, some IQ, some Gary Trent, DiVincenzo, Austin Reeves, RJ, just a couple odd shares of, there was a Luka here. There's a Brunson here. But for the most part, it looks like we're booking value through the guard spots, spending at the forward spots, spending at the center, and then spending at the util. Seems to be the nature of the beast tonight on DK. Siakam, the most highly owned in the top 150. Anthony Simons, Marcus Smart, Killian Hayes, kind of straight line down through the list we were looking at there. Wiseman, a little bit of an oddball. I know I mentioned him before, but it's also on that screen in front of us. Yeah, for 3,600, I got to say, James Wiseman, 13.4% on FanDuel, but more to the point, 18.9% on DraftKings. It's just a very cheap option. Just a 16-minute projection, but price-based. So he's landing in a lot of the top 150. Wasn't in a ton of the very top lineups. Well, actually, no. He's in 2, 3, 4 of them. As we go down the screen, I'm sure he's in a handful more of these. Not my favorite option on the board, but got to take that out of the equation. He's definitely hitting fairly hard. Jump over and look at FanDuel real quick. Mom said, "Boy, did you hear that was fucking go Joker." Let's see if this can play. Oh, wait. I think I got Discord muted.
Look, baby wheel. It's a baby fucking wheel, man. Holy shit, we are witnessing a baby fucking wheel right here, dude.
That's the most Boston thing I've ever heard. I assume that played out over the thing. Watch me get copyright pinged on on YouTube for that. Let's see. We switched over to FanDuel, right? That's in the Discord channel. If you're not in the Discord channel, jump into Discord. Yes, this is the FanDuel slate. So Jordan McLaughlin's on here too. What is going on with this guy? He's at a 14-minute projection. 4,000 at the point guard spot, 3.57 points per dollar. Pulling a 14% win rate on FanDuel? That is weird. How are we getting to that? Is something screwy with him? Let me see. I don't know why he would be coming up that much. I'm going to put a big ignore on that Jordan McLaughlin play. I don't know that I trust how high that is. I think that came through screwy. I don't know what caused it. All right, buddy, chill. I know. Jordan saying, no, Joker saying, no, Jordan McLaughlin, he's the guy. He's the guy. I don't know if I accidentally fat fingered the standard deviation on that. Perfectly fine on the screen. I'm very hesitant to say that Jordan McLaughlin play is real. I'd be concerned. I'll rerun it and I'll put it in Discord. I'm concerned with how much he's coming up in these. That seems off based on everything else. So probably, if I had to guess, I would say for some reason he went through it with a higher standard deviation than he should have, and it's causing him to land in those lineups a lot. But let's be hesitant about that Jordan McLaughlin play. It shouldn't skew it too badly because there are other reasonably comparable guys in terms of the overall value there. We're probably looking at a slightly skewed board, but everybody else is going to be like, they're all relevant to where they are. It's just maybe these aren't the lineups that you end up seeing if you take him out of the pool. But Jalen Brunson, very, very valuable on FanDuel. Anthony Simons, very valuable on FanDuel. Getting a little bit of Luka, but you're getting a lot more Kyrie, which makes a ton of sense. Points per dollar, especially on the FanDuel slate, there was a little bit of differentiation there. In terms of the values, a lot of Dante DiVincenzo again. Some Gary Trent, some Anthony Simons, a little bit of OG, Josh Hart, a lot of the guys we talked about through that mid-range. It's funny, it's a slate where it's like entirely comprised of all those guys, right? Like the entire mid-range is made up of that type of guy to me today. Not a lot of crazy high upside guys, but a lot of guys who can bend a slate on the right night. Looks like we're getting a decent amount of spend at the power forward. A lot of Jalen Duren landing at center, like we were expecting to see. Some Sabonis falling into the center spot. Some Bismack Biyombo in there as well. But a good amount of Jalen Duren, which I definitely think makes sense given the center-only eligibility. And then all the other guys that are center power forward fall into the power forward spots around him. A lot of them are looking like Boucher and somebody. So keep Boucher in mind maybe as a potential value play. Another guy, it's all price-based. With that one, low expectation of minutes, but reasonable enough. Desmond Bane landing in a few of these. Good amount of Kyrie. Kyrie and Jalen Brunson at the guard spots are coming up a fairly strong amount of the time. Yeah, McLaughlin went through FanDuel really weird. There's no way he's this valuable. Something is up. I got to figure that out. I'll rerun it. Like I said, I'll rerun both sites and report back in Discord on McLaughlin there. But I wouldn't expect that one's there. You'll see it as well on the site. I'll even maybe I'll when I update the site and the projections and everything, maybe I'll just make a note there so that people who aren't in the Discord can catch it too. I'll just say, like, if you were on the show, if you were there for the show, Jordan McLaughlin is not a good play, or is actually a good play. Who knows? But if I had to guess, he went through that with something screwy on his on my data. So we gotta clean that up. But anyway, guys, hour and 25 minutes. First show back. Felt pretty good. Good to be back. Glad we're back in the swing of things, and we'll be here tomorrow. And regular rotation, regular go forward plans, everyday shows. Maybe not as much on the weekends, but with football calming down, we'll be all basketball focused up until spring training, which is right around the corner. Can't wait. Pitchers and catchers can't be more than all that much more than a month out. Anyway, good luck out there tonight. Somebody go win something. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Nuke, are the DK FanDuel tourneys preloaded into AceMind? It's bring your own projections right now. So you need to be able to upload projections and ownership. And you can use you don't need a standard deviation. There's a column for standard deviation. But it's bring your own projections right now. But everything that you would need from like FanDuel DraftKings is there. It's just click. Here, I'll show you if you can still see this, right? Yeah. All right. So it's click there on the sim up here. Click that. And then DraftKings FanDuel. Select a contest. Classic. 5-gamer at 10 p.m. And then they've got all the different contests loaded in here. So it is, if you're talking about simming against a 27,450 lineup pool versus a 134 lineup pool, one is a $15 buy-in, one is a $3,100 buy-in. Depends on what kind of player you are. But those are two very, very different sims. So all the different contests are loaded up there. And it's very important that you do select the right one. So definitely something to keep your eye on. But yeah, it is bring your own projections, bring your own ownership for right now. Once you get in, like you click here, this is where you would upload projections. And as you see, you can map their data to the columns. So you can just like auto map somebody else's CSV, or you can click here and it pops up there. You're not going to be able to see their CSV, but it pops up a CSV from them that you can populate. Very straightforward, very easy to use. I was talking to those guys about creating some how-tos. We're going to do a couple videos of, it'll probably be me like, hey, this is Terry from rotoscouts. I'm going to show you how to use the AceMind tools. And it'll probably be, as I told those guys, it'll be, the first time I do it, it'll be way too long. It'll be like a 2-hour video, and they'll be like, I was thinking about something more like 10, 15 minutes. And I'll be like, let me try that again. And then that one will be too long. Kind of like this goodbye. So let's wind this thing down, guys. Nuke Live, you're welcome. Beantown, you're welcome. Inside Foot, Outside Foot, you're welcome. Great to see you back too, buddy. Appreciate it. Appreciate all you guys coming and hanging out. First show back. A lot of fun. And we'll do it all again tomorrow. Good luck out there. Somebody go win something. See you.